Hey guys, it's Katie. Welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, I wanted to do a sort of book haul. So I don't know if you guys have seen this in any of your local bookstores or like online or something, the like blind date with a book thing. If you don't know what I'm talking about, basically some bookstores and like places have started doing this thing where they like wrap up books in like paper bags and kind of write like a vague description of it so you can like blindly pick a book. Personally, I think it's a really cool concept because it kind of like helps you find books that you wouldn't have picked up normally, whether like you didn't know who the author was or the cover like wasn't super gripping, but then you like read a cool synopsis of it and you're like, damn, that does sound cool. So basically that kind of inspired this haul. That's not what I did. I didn't find like the wrapped up kind of books because nowhere near me that I have seen does that. However, I did go to Barnes & Noble the other day with like that whole I'm not gonna buy anything, I'm just gonna look mindset, which we all know well. But I went over to the table that was like buy two get one free, and I hadn't heard of like any of the books on that table except for like one I think I'd already read. And so I was like, all right, let's see. I found one that looked kind of interesting. I'm like, well, I found one, I need to find two more. So I ended up picking out 3 books on this table that I had never heard of before, and I didn't let myself like look up reviews online or like what the average rating on Goodreads was or anything. I had to choose the books solely on what I saw in front of me, the description, the cover, blah 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 blah. And so I decided to get like a good mix of them too. So I have a fiction, I have a nonfiction, and I have a poetry collection, none of which I've ever heard of before, and I still haven't looked them up online, and I'm not going to. I'm just going to go in and read them blind. For the most part. Like, I read the description, but you know. And I'm excited because, like I said, I'd never heard of any of these books, so this was kind of a cool way to pick up some books that I had never found before, and I've definitely never heard anyone else on BookTube talk about these. So maybe if these sound interesting to you, this will be a cool way for you guys to find some new kind of under the radar books as well. So let's just get straight into my mini little haul. So the first one I'm going to talk about is the nonfiction. So this one I think is going to be really good. It looks like really impactful and interesting, but I also think it's going to be really upsetting and sad, especially in this like current political climate, that I think it'll be good for me to read. And that is No One Cares About Crazy People by Ron Powers. So I have a very vague understanding of what this book is actually about. I've definitely made a lot of assumptions about what it's about. Basically, I believe the author is writing about his own family experience, and one of his children had schizophrenia and ended up committing suicide. And so there was a quote by a politician in 2010 that inspired him to finally write this book after the death of his son, which you guys may or may not be familiar with this quote from 2010, that no one cares about crazy people, and that's where obviously they got the title of the book. And it's funny, what is the name of the thing like at the beginning of the book? Is it the epigraph, like the quote? But he literally quotes the dude who said no one cares about crazy people. So it says this is about my family and the heartbreak of mental illness in America. So I think this is kind of talking about his personal experience and also kind of broadening that out to mental illness in America and stigmas and how people are perceiving people who have mental illnesses. I don't know why I just said mental illness like that. So like I said, I feel like this is gonna be like a really emotional, upsetting kind of read. But personally, schizophrenia isn't something that I know a lot about, so I'm definitely interested to learn more about that. There's a whole chapter titled schizophrenia, so I'm sure he's gonna get into that. There's also stuff about like antipsychotics, and like there's just a lot of cool, if you look at the table of contents and just like looking at the titles of the different chapters, it seems like there's like a wide variety of topics that he's going to talk about in here. And I don't know why, I've just been on a huge nonfiction kick. I just really like coming out of books feeling like I've learned something new and I've like gained something from it, like a little more substance than just like, you know, a fun novel. So I'm definitely really excited about this one. The second one I picked up is the novel, and it's The Other Einstein by Marie Benedict. So basically this book follows Albert Einstein's wife, and it says it's supposed to be about the forgotten woman whose light was lost in Einstein's enormous shadow. And you know, there's so many stories like that where like the husband or the brother or whatever like male had like a lot of fame, a lot of recognition, and there's usually like a woman behind it, either like helping them with the material that then becomes famous or have like their own accomplishments that just like don't come to light because of women in that time, you know. So I don't know how historically accurate this is going to be, but it sounds like it's going to be like a very like feminist, fun kind of book. I also, to be honest, like don't know a whole lot about Einstein except for like the basic things that you learn in school, and I don't read historical fiction very often. It's just like not something I gravitate towards normally, so I think this will be like a nice mix up in genre for me. It's also not too terribly long. Like the font and like the margins is like very generous, and it's just over 300 pages, so I definitely think this is something I can read really quickly. I've also been getting a lot more into adult fiction. I've just been kind of like gravitating outside of YA more now. Not that I don't love YA, I'm always gonna love YA. That's like a whole nother video. I can make a whole video talking about that, but it's just kind of nice to like branch out and read some more things, and then when you come back to YA, it's like more fun. I don't know if that made any sense. But yeah, basically this book seems to be about like some kick-ass woman scientist, and I'm all here for it. I'm really excited. And the last thing I picked up was a poetry collection, and I was so excited that I found this because I went over to the poetry section specifically looking for a poetry book, and I couldn't find anything in the poetry section. And then I go over to this table where it's like buy two get one free, and the first thing I see is a poetry book that wasn't in the poetry section, and I was like, and this is actually the book that made me want to get all three because I first found this one and I knew I wanted to get this one. It is Wild Embers by Nikita Gill, Poems of Rebellion, Fire, and Beauty. I never actually read the back of the book or description for poetry books. I just turn to like a random poem and I read it and see if like I connect with the writing style, because I think that's the most important thing with poetry. It's not the topic, it's not like what the poems are actually about, it's whether or not you like the way this poet writes. And so I flipped like a random page and I read like 2 lines of a poem and I was like, yep, I'm gonna like this, I can tell. But for your guys' sake, now that I have read the description, it sounds even cooler than I thought it was gonna be. Featuring rewritten fairy tale heroines, goddess wisdom, and poetry that burns with revolution, this collection is an explosion of femininity, empowerment, and personal growth. That sounds 100% right up my alley. I am so excited for this. I also haven't read a poetry book that I loved since the summer when I read Helium, which you guys recommended to me, which was awesome. So I'm really hoping this one blows my socks off too. I think this is the one that I'm the most excited about out of all 3, just because I've kind of been craving a good poetry book lately, and I'm so like intrigued by these books. I like really want to go online and look and see what other people thought about it, but I don't want to do that at the same time. I don't want to read any reviews. I don't want to go in biased or with any expectations based on like the average rating from other people. I just want to go in and see what I think about it for myself first, and then I'll go look at the reviews, you know? So yeah, I'll have all of these books linked down below in the description if you want to go check them out also. I would totally encourage you guys to go out and pick up some books that you don't really know anything about and just like give them a try. Technology is great and stuff, but I think too much research into like what books you're gonna buy kind of ruins the fun of just like going into a bookstore and just picking up something that looks interesting. I feel like we don't do that enough anymore. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. If you want to follow me on any of my social media, all of those links are down below in the description, as well as a link to my book if you want to pick up a copy. I would love you forever. And if you like this video, I would appreciate you so much if you would give it a thumbs up and maybe subscribe and stick around if you haven't already, and I will just see you guys in my next video very soon. Bye.